A quiet town, a perfect family, and one secret so dangerous it wiped them all out. Imagine this. A peaceful New England morning, trees swaying gently, the sound of birds, neighbors walking their dogs. Madbury, New Hampshire, a place where nothing dramatic ever happens, or so everyone thought. But on August 18, 2025, something happened that no one in this small town will ever forget. 4 lives gone. 2 parents, their 2 children, and yet one tiny life, a toddler, somehow survived. Now you're probably thinking, what could possibly have led to something this dark in such a calm place? That's the question everyone was asking. And the answer, well, it's more chilling than you can imagine. Stay with me, because as I tell you this story, you're going to realize that sometimes the most terrifying events don't happen in the shadows. They happen right inside a home, where we feel the safest. The Smith family: James, 38, a hardworking father; Emily, 36, a caring mother; and their 2 kids, Noah, just 6 years old, and Lily, 4. A perfect little family, living in a cozy white house on a quiet street. Neighbors described them as friendly, always waving, always smiling. James worked at a local construction company. Emily, a stay-at-home mom who loved gardening and baking cookies for the kids on the block. Everything seemed perfect, until that Monday morning. It was around 10:30 a.m. when the first call came in. A neighbor, concerned because Emily hadn't shown up to drop Lily at preschool, walked over. The front door, closed, curtains drawn. Unusual for Emily, she was always up early, windows open, fresh air in the house. When nobody answered the door, the neighbor tried calling James. No response. Then Emily. Still nothing. That's when a strange feeling kicked in. You know, that gut instinct, that sense that something isn't right. By 11 o'clock a.m., the neighbor decided to call the police. Minutes later, officers arrived at the Smith home. They knocked. No answer. Knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. What happened next is the stuff nightmares are made of. The officers tried the door. It was unlocked. Slowly, they pushed it open. The house was eerily silent, too silent. No TV, no voices, nothing but the creak of the floor under their boots. As they stepped in, the smell hit first. A heavy, metallic scent that every cop knows all too well. Something was wrong, very, very wrong. And then the living room. James and Emily were there, lifeless, motionless. The scene was brutal, something no one in that quiet town had ever witnessed before. If you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of crime stories, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. But that wasn't all, because the officers knew the couple had kids, 2 of them. So where were they? Upstairs, they found the answer. And trust me when I say this, it was worse than anyone expected. Noah and Lily, both gone. 4 lives wiped out in an instant. And just when the officers thought the horror couldn't get any deeper, they heard something. A soft cry, faint, almost like a whisper, coming from the closet in the master bedroom. They opened the door, and there, huddled under a blanket, was a toddler, barely 18 months old, alive, terrified, hungry, but alive. This baby had survived God knows how long without anyone noticing. How? Why? And more importantly, what on earth happened inside that house? Here's the thing. At that point, nobody knew. Was it a break-in, a case of domestic violence, or something far more disturbing? All they knew was that there were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, nothing stolen, which raised the chilling possibility, whoever did this, that person probably knew the family, and maybe, just maybe, they were still out there. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Imagine living in a neighborhood where everyone knows each other, where you feel safe enough to leave your doors unlocked. And then you wake up to news like this: 4 deaths in one home. No warning, no explanation. That's when fear grips an entire town. Parents start locking doors they never locked before. Kids aren't allowed to play outside. Suddenly, everyone is looking over their shoulder, wondering, could it be someone we know? But here's the twist, and trust me, you didn't see this coming. Because the truth behind this tragedy, it's not what the police expected. Not even close. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover next. Before we move forward, tell me this: if you were that neighbor who sensed something was wrong, would you have gone inside the house before calling the police? Why do you think the toddler was left alive? Out of mercy or for a darker reason? What's your first theory? Was this a break-in, a family dispute, or something much bigger? The investigation that uncovered the unthinkable: when the first officers walked out of that house, their faces said everything. They had seen crime scenes before, but this was something else. 4 people gone, 2 adults, 2 kids, and a toddler left behind. Why? How? Those were the questions echoing through the quiet streets of Madbury that day. The news spread like wildfire. By noon, the entire neighborhood was out on their porches, whispering, guessing, asking the same thing: who could do this? But before any official word came out, the police had a job to do. First step: lock down the crime scene. Nothing in, nothing out. The second: call in the state investigators. Because this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a full-blown homicide. Inside the house, detectives started piecing things together. The living room told a story, but not a complete one. James and Emily, they were found near the couch. No signs of struggle, no smashed furniture, no overturned chairs, which means whatever happened, it was quick. But the strangest part: no signs of forced entry, doors intact, windows locked. Whoever came inside either walked in freely or was already inside that house. Upstairs, the kids' room painted an even darker picture. Noah and Lily were in their beds. That detail chilled the detectives, because it meant they never even had a chance to run. And then there was the toddler, still in shock, unable to speak, unable to explain what had happened. The big question now: what was the cause? Gunshots, stabbing, poison? The medical examiner's early notes hinted at gunshot wounds, but something about the placement and the silence neighbors reported that night, it didn't add up. No one heard gunfire, no loud bangs, nothing, unless a suppressor was used. And if that's true, then we're not just looking at an act of rage. We're looking at something planned, calculated. Meanwhile, the detectives started digging into the Smiths' lives. James, hardworking, well-liked, no criminal record. Emily, a stay-at-home mom, active in the local church group. On the surface, the perfect family. But investigators know better than anyone. Behind closed doors, perfection can be an illusion. So they pulled phone records, financial statements, interviewed neighbors, and that's when a few cracks started to show. A neighbor mentioned something odd. About 2 weeks ago, there was an argument, loud enough to be heard from the street. But here's the strange part: it wasn't between James and Emily. It was James and someone else. A man's voice. Who was that man? No one knew for sure, but this tip sent detectives looking into James's recent contacts. Turns out, just days before the tragedy, James withdrew a large sum of cash, almost $8,000. Why? For what? When detectives checked his phone, they found several missed calls from an unknown number, a burner phone, and then a text that sent shivers down everyone's spine. You have until Monday, no excuses. Monday, the very day the family was found dead. Now the case had taken a dangerous turn. This wasn't just a family tragedy. This had the markings of a threat, a deadline, and maybe a deal gone horribly wrong. But here's the twist: if this was about money, why wasn't anything stolen? The house was untouched, valuables still in place, wallets and jewelry right there. So if robbery wasn't the motive, what was? Back at the station, detectives kept digging. They traced the unknown number to a prepaid SIM purchased 2 towns over. No ID, no camera footage, a dead end almost. Because then they found something else. Security footage from a gas station just 2 miles from the Smith home. Time stamp: 6:45 a.m. on the day of the tragedy. A black SUV pulls in. Out steps a man wearing a dark hoodie. He buys fuel, pays cash, and leaves. Nothing strange except for one detail. In the back seat, through the tinted glass, detectives spotted what looked like a rifle case. Could this be the weapon used? If yes, then whoever drove that SUV wasn't just a passerby. They were prepared. By now, the community was on edge. Parents wouldn't let their kids walk to school. Local businesses started closing early. The rumor mill went wild. Some said it was a random attack. Others whispered about an affair, a secret debt, maybe even gang retaliation. But detectives had a feeling it was something even darker. And when they finally cracked into James's email account, their suspicions were confirmed. An email sent just 3 days before the killings from an encrypted address. Subject line: "You know what happens if you don't deliver." Deliver what? Money? Something else? And who was behind it? Here's the thing. Every clue so far pointed to one thing: this wasn't random. This was personal. And the person responsible was still out there. But the real shock: the truth wasn't in James's secrets. It was hiding in Emily's. And when investigators found out what she was involved in, the entire case flipped upside down. The secret life that changed everything. Up until now, everyone thought James was the center of this mystery. After all, he was the one with the cryptic text, the cash withdrawal, the argument neighbors overheard. But investigators were about to learn something that would turn the entire case upside down. Because when they started digging deeper into Emily's life, they found a side of her no one in Madbury had ever seen. It started with a single clue. On Emily's laptop, tucked away in a folder marked recipes, investigators found something strange: encrypted files. Not pictures, not documents, something else. After hours of work, the tech team cracked the first file open, and what they saw made their jaws drop. It wasn't a recipe. It was an invoice. A high-value transaction, over $15,000, linked to an online username, Luna Gray. And guess what? That username appeared on a site investigators knew all too well. Not a cooking blog, not a social media platform, but a dark web marketplace. Emily, the sweet, smiling stay-at-home mom who baked cookies for the neighborhood, was involved in something illegal. But what exactly? At first, detectives thought drugs. Maybe she was buying or selling prescription pills. But the transaction history told a different story, because these payments weren't for pills. They were for something far more dangerous. The description on one of the invoices sent chills down the spine of everyone in that room. Custom piece. Fully automatic. No serial. Emily wasn't just shopping online. She was buying weapons. And not just any weapons, illegal firearms. The next question: why? Why would a suburban mom need guns like that? Was she scared of something? Or was she planning something? Detectives checked her recent messages. Most were encrypted, but a few slipped through. And those few were enough to paint a terrifying picture. One message, sent just days before the killings, read, "Don't make me do this, I have no choice." Another said, "You promised this would be the last time." Now, these didn't sound like someone planning a crime. They sounded like someone trapped, someone desperate, but trapped by what? Meanwhile, the timeline got even more unsettling. Remember that black SUV at the gas station? Detectives traced the fuel purchase using security footage and a partial license plate. The vehicle belonged to a rental agency in Maine. The renter, an alias, fake name, fake address. But the payment method was real, and it linked back to the same account Emily had been transferring money to. So now the question wasn't just who killed the Smith family. It was Emily working with this person, or against them? Here's where it gets even darker. Emily's financials revealed something shocking. Over the last 6 months, more than $40,000 had vanished from the family account, withdrawn in chunks, always in cash. Always right before a message appeared from that unknown contact. This wasn't a one-time deal. This was an ongoing arrangement, which meant Emily was hiding something big, and it wasn't just about money. Detectives interviewed her closest friends. At first, they said the same thing everyone else did. Emily was sweet, quiet, devoted to her kids. But then one friend hesitated, and when pressed, she admitted something that changed everything. Emily wasn't happy. She was scared. A few months ago, she told me she felt like someone was watching her, following her. She said she made a mistake and she couldn't get out. That single line cracked the case wide open. Emily wasn't just a random victim. She was in deep, maybe deeper than anyone realized. Now detectives had a working theory. Emily had gotten involved with someone dangerous, maybe through the dark web, maybe through someone she met online. At first, it was probably harmless, but then it escalated to weapons, to money, to threats. And when she couldn't deliver any more, that's when things turned deadly. But here's the thing. If this theory was true, then Emily wasn't the killer. She was the target, along with everyone else in that house. Which raises the next chilling question. Who was pulling the strings? And why did they spare the toddler? Because if this was a cleanup job, why leave a witness, even a small one? Unless the killer wanted someone to live, to send a message. By now, detectives were running on adrenaline. They had Emily's laptop, her bank records, her messages. But the real breakthrough came from a place no one expected. The toddler's crib. Under the mattress, tucked away in a zippered pouch, they found a small flash drive, encrypted just like Emily's files. But when the tech team finally broke into it, the truth spilled out. Videos, dozens of them, conversations between Emily and a man whose face was never fully shown. His voice, distorted, but his words, crystal clear. You know the rules, Emily. No mistakes. Or everyone pays. And then the final video, recorded just a week before the killings. Emily, crying, whispering into the camera, "I don't know what else to do. If anyone finds this, please protect my kids." That was the moment everyone in that investigation room realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a family murder. It was part of something much bigger. And the man behind it, he was still out there. By now, investigators had one thing clear in their minds. This wasn't just a family tragedy. This was a calculated act, a message. And the person sending that message, they were still out there and getting closer to being unmasked. The flash drive Emily left behind was like a ticking bomb. It didn't just have videos. It had chat logs, encrypted threads between Emily and someone going by the name Raven. The conversations were chilling. Raven wasn't just threatening Emily, he was controlling her. Every message was an order, every payment a demand. One chat stood out more than any other. "You crossed me, Emily. And now you'll learn what happens to people who break the rules." But what rules? What was Emily involved in that was worth killing an entire family? Detectives traced the username Raven through multiple layers of the dark web. Every lead was a dead end until one tiny detail slipped through. An IP address. Not from another country, not from a big city, but from right there in New Hampshire. Barely 15 miles from the Smith home. This wasn't some faraway criminal empire. This was local, which made it even scarier. So the task force went into overdrive. They subpoenaed rental car records, cross-checked financial transactions, and analyzed phone pings from that burner number. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. And then came the breakthrough. The black SUV seen at the gas station. Guess where it turned up? A storage facility just off Route 4. When officers raided the unit, what they found made everyone's blood run cold. Inside, a stash of illegal weapons, guns, silencers, ammo, several license plates from different states, and in the corner a single photo, a family photo. The Smith family, smiling, happy, pinned to the wall with a knife. This wasn't random, this was personal. The unit's rental papers were under another fake name, but the security footage told the truth. And when the image cleared up, every officer in that room froze. Because the man in that footage was someone they knew, someone from the community, a local contractor, a guy who volunteered at church events, a face everyone trusted. His name, Daniel Price, age 42, married, father of 2, on the surface the perfect neighbor. Underneath, a dark, twisted life no one saw coming. When detectives dug into Daniel's background, the story unraveled fast. He wasn't just a contractor. He was running an underground weapons operation on the side, supplying illegal firearms through the dark web. And Emily, she was one of his clients. At first it was small, a single handgun for protection. But then things escalated. Payments got bigger, orders got riskier, and when Emily couldn't keep up when she tried to pull out, Daniel made sure she understood the cost. He threatened her, controlled her, and finally destroyed everything she loved. The timeline became chillingly clear. Daniel gave Emily an ultimatum: deliver the money or pay the price. She couldn't deliver, so he showed up at that house on August 18th. Using a silenced weapon, he executed James and Emily in the living room, then went upstairs where the kids were sleeping. 2 shots, no witnesses, at least that was the plan. But then the toddler. Why spare the baby? Detectives believe Daniel left that child alive on purpose, not out of mercy, but as a warning, a signature. Daniel Price was arrested in the early hours of August 22nd after a high-speed chase. When confronted, he showed no remorse, no panic, just a cold, chilling smile. His exact words to the arresting officer: "She thought she could cheat the game. Now everyone knows what happens when you try." And just like that, the small, peaceful town of Madbury learned the darkest truth of all. The real danger doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people we think we know best. So what happens now? Daniel is behind bars, facing multiple counts of murder, weapons trafficking, and more charges than most people can imagine. But the scars he left on this town and on that surviving child will never fade. And here's the haunting part. Authorities believe Daniel wasn't working alone. His online network, still active, which means there could be more Daniels out there, more families at risk, and more stories that may never come to light. Let this sink in. Emily thought she was protecting her family by playing along. Instead, it destroyed them. A single secret, a single wrong turn, and everything came crashing down. So next time you think you know your neighbor, ask yourself, do you really?